thing that I hear the most is like, it sounds complicated, or like, I'm too intimidated to make Indian food, or I don't know, it's kind of greasy, isn't it? And like all of those things are takeout based misconceptions. So much of our work and the book is about showing you that South Asian cooking, Indian and Sri Lankan specifically, is fresh and seasonal and produce forward and very healthy.
Going back to the misconception that South Asian food involves this huge laundry list of ingredients, you can make most of the recipes in the cookbook with 6 spices and some curry leaves and tamarind concentrate. So you don't need 25 spices if you don't want them, but you can, with 6 spices, make so many dishes across the 10 different states that we visited and got recipes from.
Welcome back to the Perfect Bite podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Perkins. We can always use more spice in our lives. And I'm not just talking some heat, but the flavors and nuances of gorgeous, fresh seasonings that bring layers to our home-cooked meals and make us feel a little bit more gourmet every day. Today's guests have had that singular mission for almost a decade now, focusing on how they can put money, equity, and power into the best regenerative spice farms across South Asia and bring wildly delicious, hella potent flavors into your home cooking. Really, 2 Yay area girls after my heart here. Please welcome the CEO and recipe editor and co-authors of the Diaspora Spice Co Cookbook, Sana Kadri and Asha Lupi. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to have you two on. Yes, I escaped the Midwest for a little bit. I was out at Santa Clara for undergrad. So whenever I see hella, I'm like, oh, I remember when I like learned that slang and when I got teased relentlessly for my accent.
Yeah.
Where in the Midwest are you from?
I'm a Chicago girl, a long-time
amazing.
Chicagoan. I live in Columbus, Ohio now. So just went from one state to another. But we'll see if the Midwest has me forever.
My laws are in Hinsdale, so therefore I'm now by marriage an Illinois girl.
Oh my gosh. You know the suburban names too, then. Like,
I do.
Anytime you guys are out there, let me know. And I've always got
I
a
will.
list.
I would love your list.
Oh, well, I'm so excited to chat with you two here today. I think the mission of Diaspora is so incredible, and I just can't wait to get into it. Again, like coming from a totally different kind of farming family, but my mom grew up on a farm in Illinois for corn and soybeans. And I think it's only been as I've gotten older that I've just had so much more of an appreciation of how our food is grown and who's doing it and the sacrifices they make. And just like,
100%.
just the amazing stories and recipes you get out of folks who love the land so much. So this is going to be fun.
I'm so excited. Let's do it.
Yes. So I always love to take things all the way back to the beginning. When did each of you first fall in love with food? What was eating and cooking like in your households growing up?
I feel like for both of us, it was at a very young age. Asha's stories are very cute, so I'll let her tell them. But for me, at my preschool graduation, nobody could find me. And it was because I was in the kitchen eating everybody's graduation snacks. And then when I was, I think, 2.5, my dad started hiding the fish at the dinner table from me because if it was on the table, I would eat it all before he could get any. And my nanny at the time said that nobody would ever kidnap me because I eat too much. So I've always been this person.
Just obsessed and excited.
Yeah, just obsessed. Like my night and day revolves around what delicious thing I get to eat next. And like, I think it's the coolest thing in the world that humans have to eat 3 times a day. Like, lucky us.
We're more, depending on how you're feeling.
True.
Asha?
Yeah, I mean, I started cooking when I was 4, so it's been like a part of my life for a really long time. And I remember like my neighbors always loved to cook too. And so I would like go over to their house, and they were a couple that didn't have kids and had a little bit more money. And so one day I came home and told my single mom that we needed fruitier olive oil. So that was like kind of my first memory of knowing that there was this ingredient that was like, I wanted something better and I wanted to know more about it. So
Gosh, like you were at the source, and those
Yeah.
This is, dinks doing their work here. They were like, come on into our childless home and we'll show you our luxurious
Yes,
pantry.
exactly.
Oh,
I still am like trying to stock their pantry now with Diaspora Spices, but
of course.
they're from Minnesota and they've gotten more into their Midwest roots in their old age. So still cooking with olive oil, but much less spices.
Yes. And I could see them being like, the hardiest we're going is McCormick. Like that's what
Yeah.
the spice
I got the
containers were in their
pepper
home.
into their grinder.
Good.
Like, yeah, that's really, I was like, please, at least just use this black pepper.
It's baby steps. It's baby steps with them for sure.
Mhm.
So, Asha, I have to ask too, since you fell in love with food so early and you could even taste the difference in these different ingredients, not just, I like this thing, I don't like this thing, like most young kids. Were you ever playing with recipes early on too and starting to make your own?
Yeah, I had a little cookbook when I was younger. Most of the things they were titled with yum in it. So it was like chicken yum,
Oh my
banana shake yum. And so I had that little cookbook that I started when I was younger. And, I would dictate the recipes to my mom and she would write them down.
This is amazing. I think that's cookbook number 2. I would buy a yum cookbook at our
Yeah.
age. Absolutely. Like
Banana
everything
shake,
has to be yum.
yum.
Yum. Banana shake
I
yum. Like make
mean,
it cute.
yeah. Although there also was a recipe I was obsessed with called chicken mix up, which was egg noodles, sour cream, butter, shredded chicken, and salt and pepper, which is just like a wild combination of things. But Sana hates chicken, so she's like, absolutely not.
I'm also hearing the sour cream and I'm like, Midwest.
Yeah.
Yeah, you find a place to just put cream or cheese and you're like,
No matter what.
You're like, that's it. That's going to make it better.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask, like, again, I was doing my scoping here. I was diving into your LinkedIn's, and you both went to incredible colleges. Like, Asha, I can tell, oh, okay, you went to Mills. Like, your writing's going to be tight and amazing. Sana, you went to one of my dream schools. The Claremont colleges did not want me, but you ended up at Pomona and you ended up starting this Claremont Food Justice Summit, which I thought was so cool in your later years. Why do you think that each of you were then drawn into careers related to food as you were going through that process, which is crazy at a young age still, that I think we're asking 18-year-olds to decide what they're doing with the rest of their lives? How did you two think that what you were focusing on would then lead to the roles that you had before Diaspora?
Good one. I mean, I knew that I wanted to work in the food industry as of age 15 because I was very lucky to go to high school in Italy, which was like as magical as one would assume.
Oh my
But I
goodness.
spent my spring breaks and winter breaks working on a vineyard in an olive grove. And I worked on the on campus farm junior and senior year of high school. I loved it. So I went from being this like Bombay city kid, Bombay's population is 23 million. There are a million people who live on my street. I didn't grow up around farms,
Right.
but once I went to high school and I was in Duino, which is a tiny village on the Adriatic coast, I fell in love with agriculture and farming. And I knew that when I got to college, I wanted to do that, but I had no resources and I had no pathway to that. My parents are architects in a big city. And Pomona actually has an organic farm that is incredible. And so I was able to work on the farm all 4 years. So my parents, plus my scholarship, were paying for their daughter to be farm labor.
Since
But I was
Santa
also being
Clara's
paid.
campus, I'm like, you paid for the landscaping, let's be honest.
So I like to say that I majored in exactly what I do today. And that's really the magic of the liberal arts, I think, where
Yes.
I studied visual art and I was doing a lot of photography and storytelling and a lot of sculptural installations, which I have fully translated to creative direction and marketing. And then I minored in food studies and I really was looking into food politics and supply chains and agriculture. And my area of study was around the grain revolution in India and how Indian agriculture really got worse and worse and worse as we globalized more and more in the past 45 years. And so I knew pretty much as soon as I graduated that I wanted to work in Indian agriculture in some way. but I was also, a little baby gay working in San Francisco, liking taking the BART every day, and
Yes.
I liked my life. And so, in a way, diaspora is my course of study met my Bay Area life, met my desire to work with Indian agriculture.
I
And I'm
love it.
glad because 10 years later, I still like it.
You still love it. That's so important. Like a lot of founders have given up by now, or they've burnt out, or some sort of, inner politics has happened. So you're
Sure.
living the dream. And again, it makes sense that you're like, we're going to buy right, girl. Like we are going to tasty buy right. And Asha, I love how you were like in cheesemongering at first.
Yeah,
Incredible.
I graduated from Mills and needed to pay my rent. And so I walked into Market Hall Foods and just cold gave them my resume and was like, here you go. And they hired me. I started on the deli, but didn't last there very long because like all of the cool people were in the cheese department. And I was like, I want to be right there.
Jeez.
So I worked in the cheese department for a few years. And then most of my time there was actually spent in the grocery department and e-commerce department because I knew from a young age that I wanted to work in food, but restaurant kitchens were out of the picture. Like I don't have the disposition to work in a restaurant kitchen.
It's hard.
And
I don't think most
so
folks.
I loved,
Yeah.
yeah, I loved cookbooks and I loved writing. So I knew that was the path that I wanted to go down. And working at Market Hall Foods gave me that kind of backbone of ingredient knowledge. And moving into the grocery department, I got to learn a lot more in depth about ingredients. And then I also built out a recipe program and was writing all their newsletters and was their e-commerce manager. So that kind of got me into where I am in recipe development, where so much of what I do is about the ingredients and the flavors.
Incredible. And what were some of your favorites during that time that you were creating that you feel now really laid the base of what makes, I would say, like an Asha backed recipe?
I mean, probably good olive oil. I kept that from a very young age to now. But really, it's about like keeping things approachable and creating big flavor without the kind of, I think, a lot of times people can think spices and certain ingredients are intimidating, and really trying to make sure I'm writing recipes that take the intimidation out and really focus on accessibility.
Love that. Because, yeah, if you look at a giant list of ingredients, doesn't matter if it's like, oh, it's just a little pinch of things here and there, usually tends to freak people out. And they're like, this is hard. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I'm bailing. I'm
Yeah.
not doing this.
Yes. So speaking of amazing spices, Sana, a couple questions for you here before we go
Yeah.
full cookbook. I would love to hear the origin story of your aha moment for Diaspora. I mean, 23 years old, you were tiny.
Yeah.
You were a beta girl. Like
I was a baby girl.
yeah, I was 25, 26 when I attempted my startup too. And it's like, oh my gosh,
You have the
brain,
audacity,
yeah, we had the audacity, and I'm like, the brain was barely formed here.
Yeah.
These are big decisions, but you've done such an amazing job with that base since then. Because again, here we are a decade later. So, what do you think really was that moment, or a few moments that was leading you to I should really give this a go?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's always been curiosity, right? And like the desire to know the full story. So first was I was seeing turmeric lattes pop up across San Francisco. And I was kind of scratching my head, being like, why? Why are people eating? No. And I had grown up drinking Haldi Doodh, the origin, the ancestor of the modern turmeric latte, and thinking it was disgusting. And so I remember just thinking to myself, okay, well, if this is getting really popular, who is growing the turmeric to step up and supply this trend? What are those farmers' lives like? Who are they? And I'm like just proud of my younger self that I followed that curiosity all the way home to India and to visiting a farm. And then the second moment was I had spent February through June back home in Mumbai. I was living back with my parents. I had given up my lease in West Oakland and packed all my stuff. And I visited a lot of farms that I was not happy with. Like they were mixing things, like the quality was very bad. They were mixing blends and varieties from all over the world. Sometimes they were mixing Vietnamese cinnamon with Chinese cinnamon, or they were mixing Indian turmeric with Brazilian turmeric. Like there was no like adoration for quality. And then I was connected to one Mr. Prabhu Kasarneni, who is our incredible Pragati turmeric farmer. And he showed up to pick me up from the airport when I went to visit him. And I think he was very taken aback because he was expecting me to be a much older woman. And he was like, oh no, who is this child with a bad haircut and a jumpsuit who has shown up? And we all were on his bike. So it was him, his nephew, who he'd pulled out of school to be our chaperone in the middle, Pavan, and then Pavan's backpack so that I would have something to hold on to, and me, my little suitcase. And we biked to his house, and it was a long motorbike ride. And one of the first things he said to me as he showed me his fields was, if you don't care about how I take care of the soil, I don't need to sell to you. And I was like, who said anything about buying? Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And that's really where like, yeah. And I think that's where the kernel of like, this young guy has an amazing product and he's working so hard for it. And he doesn't have that much. Like back then he had about a 350 kilogram harvest, which is 700 pounds. Not that much.
Right. Right.
And I was like, good, probably find some chefs will buy it. Right. Right. And so I spent the 3K from my first ever working year tax refund, and I bought his entire harvest, and I figured out how to export it and figured out how to import it. I picked it up in my housemate's truck at SFO, and it's like a truck from the 70s. It was like a stick shift truck from the 70s. It barely worked. And I was living in a 10-person queer co-op in Oakland. And yeah, I picked up 350 kilograms of turmeric and stored them in the co-op basement for the first year and packed them out of a questionably moldy basement.
Who were you then going to around town or around the Bay Area and saying like, hey, I've got this incredible turmeric from the source. Do you want to buy it from me?
Magic is that I wasn't. So I wrote a newsletter basically to my friends and family, and I had been a freelance photographer, so to a few of my editor contacts, saying, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm thinking, here's the turmeric, I'll send you a sample. And then I like maybe did like 5 Instagram posts to my 2,000 followers, and we sold out of that first 350 kilograms in 4 days. It was bananas. Like, I can't sell turmeric that fast anymore. We've grown significantly. But it really was a testament to people being really excited by the idea that they could trace to the source an ingredient that they had like never known the origin of. And then Julia Turshen put us on the New York Magazine gift guide like 2 weeks later.
Like how?
And I woke up to 700 orders.
And you're like, how am I going to do this?
I fully like came down to the basement in my underwear one morning to get my laptop, and I opened it to like check Facebook or something and saw that I had 700 orders in Squarespace and was extremely panicked.
And you're like, is this real? Is it bots? Like, what's going on?
I don't think I even knew about bots back then. I was like,
oh my gosh, what an amazing origin. And so you're like, hey, I'm onto something here. At least 700 people want this.
yeah.
How did you then start working with and convincing farmers throughout South Asia, so India and then Sri Lanka, that yes, you're an early stage company, you're out of the US, you're young, but what did you do to establish that trust with them?
2 things. One, money speaks louder than everything else. Like you can say a lot of big words, but money talks. And so we to this day pay, I think we just did our like 2025 analysis on how much we pay above the commodity price. And despite tariffs with inflation, we're paying 3.9x above commodity price to all of our farm partners. And my goal is to get that to 5x over time. So if you pay quadruple and on time, and sometimes in advance of people having a harvest, they trust you and they want to work with you because there really isn't a better deal out there. And then I think the second is we take it personally. To me, our relationships with our farm partners are personal. I draw pretty good boundaries, I think, at work the rest of the time. And, our relationships with our farm partners are working relationships, but we want to know what they're struggling with. We want to know how their season is going. We want to know who their families are. I want all the depth and complexity because that'll help me then, tell their story better and be a better partner back to them.
Yes. And I think that must be one of your, I guess you could say, storytelling secret ingredients is that because you know things directly from the source and you can share that emotional aspect, then folks are willing to line up for a premium product. Like you are not
100%.
reaching people who are like, get me the McCormick and nothing else, right? Sorry, McCormick.
Exactly. It's better you bash them and not me.
It's more like, here's just what I knew as the economic, usual grocery store choice. That is what I'll use them as. But like, it might be different if they had better storytelling. We'll see.
100%.
So you grew within those first 3 years. And Asha, you ended up joining the team. I always loved, what was your friend meet cute here? What was your teammate meet cute? And Asha, what about Diaspora made you really excited to join? And you finally got to be in this full editorial role.
I first heard about Sana, in a grocery buyer capacity because someone said, like, oh, there's a woman, she's bringing in turmeric. And I was an associate grocery buyer at the time. And the senior buyers, I went to them and I said, like, look at this turmeric. And they're like, no one's going to want to buy that. And
too fancy to,
or that like people weren't interested in that. Like they're interested in French, Italian, like
those blends,
European specialty groceries, but like South Asian specialty ingredients, not so much. And so I said, well, I'm going to buy it and cook with it myself. And when I tasted the turmeric, I truly thought I have not tasted turmeric like this in my entire life. And then I started cooking with it a lot and tagging Sana and tagging Diaspora and trying to, get her attention, which I did with some perfectly pleated dumplings that I posted. And
they were beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
They were these cumin lamb dumplings with a turmeric wrapper. And so that was kind of our meet cute of like basically me sliding into her DMs. And then like on the business side of things, when those senior buyers retired and I stepped into the role as one of the 4 women in charge of the buying team, we brought in Diaspora. And I think Market Hall Foods still buys a ton of spices from Diaspora. And it's proven that like people are also interested in non-European specialty ingredients.
Yes, 100%. And oh, I love how you were like, I'm going to shoot my shot right now. I really like this. And I want to figure out how to work with her and be part of the team. So when was it officially? Like, were you like pitching your own position where you were like, I want to be your recipe editor? How did that all go?
So Sana posted a very cryptic story in January of 2020, just saying, oh, I need someone 10 hours a week. And I responded, what do you need them to do? And she said, I'm looking for a graphic designer. I said, oh no, that's not my specialty. But then we decided through that conversation for me to start doing 1 to 2 recipes a month. And so I think I did my first recipe in February of 2020. Then obviously March of 2020 came and the entire world changed and people were cooking at home a lot more and people needed recipes. And so then I started, doing more. Sana knew she wanted to grow the catalog and that it was going to grow exponentially in the next few years. And then I was starting to think about jumping into freelance and my next steps because I did want to shift more into recipe development. And like working as an e-commerce manager in the first 9 months of the pandemic was really hard. So I left Market Hall Foods at the end of 2020 and then started with Diaspora really in November of 2020 for my recipe editor role. And then in January of 2021, we started talking about the cookbook.
Oh my gosh. 5 years in the making. It really is
Yeah,
like a long,
a
long
long
process.
time.
Yes. I want to ask too, like over the last 5 years, like how have you seen recipe development play into your branding and your marketing and finding new audience members and ways to draw them in here?
I mean, it's been huge. I think, over and over again, we found that if you give people fun, accessible, cookable ways to use the spices, they will use them. I bring this up all the time, but Asha developed these strawberry cardamom bars for us. I think, I don't know, was it 2020, Asha, or was it 2021
I
maybe?
think it was 2020. I think it was my second or third recipe that I did for Diaspora.
Okay, well, that
Yeah.
Oh,
recipe
gee.
is this like cult followed recipe, and it's starting to be strawberry season here on the West Coast, and it will be next month on the East Coast. And sure enough, our website traffic will tick up for strawberry cardamom bar season. So
Wow.
there is power to recipes to become part of people's rituals, just the same way that spices can.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a really magical part of connecting with our community, and the cookbook really was obviously a chance to deepen that in terms of giving people a book that they can hold in their hand off recipes. But I feel like more importantly, like deepen the storytelling that we could do. Because when you're doing a recipe online, I don't know, you're kind of being, slotted into the weeknight dinner. Okay, like a project recipe for the weekend every now and then, maybe like an easy baked good
Yes.
situation. And your head note has to be pretty short because people want to just get to the damn recipe, which I understand.
We click the little
Um,
button now, the jump to recipe.
yeah, the
You know?
jump to recipe button. We love it. But I think for us, I knew that I wanted to tell the history and context and politics and family stories behind our spices and then weave the recipes into those stories. And yeah, a book was more and more feeling like the only way we could really do that work justice.
Yes. Who do you think really approached the other with, "We should do this one day and have this actually be part of our story as well and a very important part of the mission"?
I approached you, right, Asha?
Yeah, Sana
Okay,
approached
I was
me.
like, I have the memory of a small goldfish. So if I say she approached me, she'll be like, yeah, that's totally right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when I joined Diaspora, there was a thought in my brain that a cookbook could be something down the line. I always tried to get Market Hall Foods to let me do a cookbook for them, and they never did. And so I think when I joined Diaspora, I was like, maybe someday there'll be a Diaspora Spice Co
Who
cookbook.
knew it would take until
And
2026?
I know.
A long time to do these. And their loss, honestly. They're looking at your book
Yeah,
now being like, we could have had that.
I know. Well, there's still time for them.
Did what it coulda.
Good for you. You're like,
Yeah,
I'll jump in if you really need me to, if the price is right.
exactly.
So when did it start to become a little bit more real? From more just the inklings and this really beautiful foundation that you set to we're actually going to put a proposal to this, find an agent, and figure out how the heck we're going to get all these stories.
So actually, it took almost 5 years to develop our supply chain. So I founded the company with one farmer in 2017, but we didn't have, 100 or so farmers until 2022. So we went from one spice to 20 spices over 5 years. So even in 2021, when we started working on the proposal and got an agent, we were still finalizing who our long term farm partners were going to be. So I would say 2022 and 23 was really still like settling into the concept, doing research. We sold the book in 22 to our publisher. But obviously, when you sell a book, it's unwritten. You're selling based on a proposal, or in our case, it was unwritten. And then we had 23 and Asha, we traveled in 24.
We traveled our first trip was at the end
End
of
of 23.
2023. And then the big trip was the first 3 months of 2024.
It was
My goodness.
2 years ago now. That's crazy.
Oh
No.
my gosh, time flies. And also, what was it like being on the road for 3 months together? You're you're on
We
the
have
other
a
side
lot
of
of
the world.
stories.
I
We
know.
need a
It
couple of
was,
them. I love that you didn't just say, "Hey, let's just jump on Zoom and we'll chat with you guys." And, can you
Wow.
send us a few pictures and then we'll just take some in a studio here in the Bay Area. You were like, "We're going, we're getting the whole feel, and we're going to see how this is really done in your kitchens." So, I want to hear like, how did you first feel when you were landing and getting on your first journeys here? What were some of those memories that you'll definitely never forget? And what were some of the challenges that hopefully you can laugh back at now?
My God, Asha, I
uh,
feel like you should start because, yeah, it was your first time in
yeah.
India.
Oh, it was. So it was my first time in India. And I think the first farm that we went to was actually just our photographer, Malati, and I, and then the sourcing manager at the time. And I don't know what Kartik's role was then, but
Production manager. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
He was only roped into that trip because he spoke Marathi and he needed to help you with translation. Poor guy was like
Except he
pulled off
did
the line
Literally going to
and then he
ask
just
about
trotted away.
translation.
No, he just like left Malati and I in the kitchen and like wasn't even in the house, was like miles away, just had them like take us into the kitchen. And, Malati and I didn't speak the language. And in my brain was like, what have I gotten myself into? And trying to take notes on, three different dishes that are all going at once. But it also, I distinctly remember the meal that we had at that farm and it being my first farm meal. And I also knew then that no matter how, like, what the challenges were going to be, that it was going to be so worth it because the food was just so good. And like, even though we didn't speak the same language, the women, and this is for pretty much every household that we went to, were just so patient. And the things we were asking were like, we were also shooting photography during the cooking process. So it's pausing to like lift a ladle 5 times, which is like a very odd thing to ask someone. And then, trying to make sure I was getting measurements, which usually was just hold out your hand and I will guesstimate what's in it.
Yeah.
And I had a little tiny notebook that I was writing everything in. But it was, I think that first farm, it was, what have I gotten myself into? But I'm so excited to do this.
How did you feel when you had that first bite too?
I mean, I think it was late when everyone was hungry. Like we had just gone and it was, I think maybe like 9 p.m. And that was well past people's dinner time. And so it also just tasted delicious because I was like just so ravenous and it was so nourishing. And it was a country chicken curry, which, luckily Sana wasn't there to eat the chicken, but it was one of the first things that for me, a technique in their country chicken curry was grinding chana dal and using that ground lentils to thicken the gravy. And I had never seen that done before. And it is one of the techniques that ended up in our diaspora country chicken curry that takes different techniques from all of the ones that we ate over our journey and put them into one diaspora family one.
Yeah. I can picture you all together at a table. And again, I was going to ask, like, not only the number of dialects across India and then Sri Lanka, it is a lot to keep up with, but also when you think of family recipes, you think of someone saying a little bit of this and
Little this.
until it smells like this, and you kind of want it to look like that, And so you have such a beautiful ability that you were able to translate not only through language, but also again the feeling and the heart that they brought to it. And this is why food is amazing. This is why I love working with folks in food, because it doesn't matter if we can't speak the same language. We all get it when we sit down together and share and just feel good over it together.
Yeah. I mean, I think I speak Hindi, English, and some Gujarati. That's it. And we worked in regions where I think there was 14 different languages we encountered over the course of our trip. So between us, we only spoke 3 out of the 14 languages. And, we sometimes had a translator, but not always. And so we really had to figure out how to get the right translation of the culture and the story and the measurements and the feeling through a mix of emotion, cooking, and when we could, a researcher.
Yes. And a little bit of sign language, I'm sure, between
Yeah, a
everyone
lot
too.
of sign language, a lot of like
This. Yeah. I mean, I want to hear without giving too much away, because of course we want folks to pick this up and actually read through
yeah.
themselves. Are there any special stories or little moments here that we should look for that you can just picture the moment that happened on the trip as well?
Ooh. I think there's a story that we've told a lot is the story of the pumpkin dip. So, when we were showing up in people's homes, no matter what our researcher Shubra had like primed them for ahead of our visit, we were still the guests and the Americans who were coming to visit. So there was a desire to, roll out the red carpet and show us their hospitality. The nuts and like all the beautiful treats would get taken out. And as a result, the recipes they were making with us were often initially the like feast foods or like special, what you make for a birthday or when guests come food. And even though we had repeated like what we want is your everyday, like, what do you make when you're like stuck and you have 20 minutes to make dinner? That's what we want to see. But they were not comfortable enough with us to show us that initially. And so on day 3 in Pampur in Kashmir at Alia's home, and she's our saffron farm partner's wife, literally like Malati, our photographer, had packed up the camera. We were on our way out and she was like, do you want to see this pumpkin chutney that it's just in the fridge. Like, do you want to see it? We were like,
Yeah.
we immediately nodded, yes, yes, yes. And she pulled it out and it was delicious. She had basically pressure cooked pumpkin and then hung it overnight to reduce take out all the liquid. And then she hung yogurt overnight to turn it into like labna and then mix that in with walnuts to make this very traditional pumpkin chutney. And it's like a seasonal autumnal favorite. And Asha's brain, I think, immediately went, and she turned it into like
Notebook came back out.
Yeah. And she turned it into this like really sexy dip, which retains the heart of Alia's kitchen and fall in Kashmir, but is like also so Bay Area in so many ways. Like it's a pumpkin dip with like a sizzled spice and nut topping. And also it's the one image in the book that if you look at it, it's not perfectly exposed. And it's because Malati had put her lights away. So we had to take the photo of the chutney just as is and be like, we'll just figure it out in post. It's fine. Because we were literally going to catch our flight. But so, often the most delicious recipes came in the in-betweens or break times or right as we were leaving. The downtime brought out the juicy stuff.
Yes. And I'm sure again, because photography and those visual layouts of cookbooks are just as important as the storytelling and recipes, that you're like, oh no, it's not the same. It's not perfect. I'm sure it's then the most beautiful one because it's real. And you're like, oh, it's going to make us smile every time we see it.
I think the majority of the book was shot on farm. We did do a studio shoot to like fill in the blanks, but that was really important to us is how can we not just have this be about the rest. Like I mentioned this to a friend yesterday is that I don't think people are realizing, but I hope they are, the little details that have gone into the book so for the stuff that we shot in a studio, we brought in utensils from each region. So for the recipes from Kerala, we used Kerala clay pots. For the Manipuri recipes, we only used Manipuri black pottery. For the Kashmiri recipes, we brought Kashmiri copper cookware. Like it was a crazy sourcing expedition, but it was because we wanted to get the culture and the details right and not flatten this book to generic Indian,
Yes.
actually
A
highlight the differences.
real love letter.
Yeah.
Oh, and again, that respect and that honoring of heritage is, I can't wait to pick up my own copy and just like dive through because again, it's those special Easter eggs and it's the labor of love. Like, I think folks can really tell you all. I mean, again, 5 years in the making. You care about this a lot. So I'm not going to ask you what your favorite recipe is because that's like choosing the favorite child and very difficult and it changes based on your day. We'll get to the world's best and hardest question later. But I do want to hear from each of you, especially as we're going deeper into spring here and summer's coming up. What are some off the bat recipes that we should be thinking about and diving into with Diaspora?
Asha, you go first.
So the recipe that I know that I'm making next is the Pisoon Loon, which is this.
Me.
I know, I'm sorry.
Me.
It's such a good one. It's this seasoned salt that we learned up in the Tons Valley where our garlic grows, and it has cilantro and cumin and serrano chilies, and sometimes the traditionally is using perilla seeds. You can also use black sesame seeds as well, but it creates this just flavor packed seasoned salt that in the book we use it on blistered asparagus, but it would be amazing. I mean, Sana and I love it with butter and radishes, but it's just one of those things that you kind of want to sprinkle all over everything. And as produce is becoming, this beautiful thing that you don't need to do much to during the next few seasons, like a little bit of olive oil and Pisoon Loon just is like what I want on everything.
When you said the olive oil too, I thought a really good tomato and that mix and some olive oil.
That'd be great.
I'm
Hey,
ready
Asha, how does the Pisoon Loon keep?
It keeps pretty well. When we made it for the studio shoot, for me, it kept for about 3 months.
Okay. So it could get me to the beginning of tomato season if I make some this weekend.
Like now.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I probably will finish it before then. When we were in LA on the cookbook tour, we ate these delicious asparagus, like this plate of asparagus at Botanica, where we did a collaborative dinner. And they used a variety called Delta Queens. And I'd never heard of them before. I didn't know anything about Delta Queen asparagus. And sure enough, yesterday I was at my local market and I picked up 3 bunches of Delta Queen asparagus. And that's why I also had Pisoon Loon on my list to make this weekend.
I was going to say, like, don't you love it when you discover a moment with produce? Again, this is like when you're like, oh, I'm an adult now, where like someone just cooks it in just such a beautiful way or seasons it just so perfectly and lets it shine that you're like, that was the best part of the meal. So I'm thinking, I was in Austin at the end of February and I got to go to Arlo Gray, Kristen Kish's restaurant, and it was all beautiful. But they did a roasted cabbage there that I'm still thinking about. And
really?
You could not have made me at like 10 years old like cabbage, but it was stunning.
Here we are.
Yes. So Sana, if you can pick a second choice.
Fine. I've made a lot of the recipes in the book, but Asha, when she was developing them, made multiple iterations and I got to be the lucky taste tester. So one of the recipes that I hadn't made until last weekend was the coconut chocolate cookies. They're spiced coconut chocolate cookies and they are so good.
Oh, this sounds up my alley.
So I made them with my stepdaughters last weekend and I think we went through the entire batch in half a day. And we're a no sugar household.
You're like, we are today.
I was like, screw it. It's Easter, whatever.
Yeah, that actually would be an amazing Easter cookie.
Yes. That was a good Easter cookie. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I have got to pick this up. I've got to do all of these. And especially when you mentioned the asparagus, I was like, it's perfect time, especially if you can find a white asparagus right now. That's where it's at.
I would also say that in the summer, the tomato recipes in the book are out of control. I'm
Yeah.
waiting. There's a tomato plant sale here at the end of April, and I'm just waiting to get my tomato starts because then it's going to be the summer of tomatoes X
Tomato
Diaspora
Girl.
cookbook. Yeah.
Tomato Girl Summer by Diaspora.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sponsored by Diaspora.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I mean, just based on your cookbook sales and tour alone, I know that everyone is so excited about this. Last few questions here, because I know you all are busy. You are doing such a beautiful job putting a spotlight not only on these different regions, cultures, stories that are coming out of India and Sri Lanka. What do you think that you're still busting through in terms of misconceptions when it comes to talking about South Asian recipes and what you want folks to really take away from this at the end of the day so that we can all be a little bit more understanding and embrace folks who may be thousands of miles away more?
Even now, the thing that I hear the most is like, it sounds complicated, or like, I'm too intimidated to make Indian food,
Yeah.
or it requires so many ingredients, or I don't know, it's kind of greasy, isn't it? And like,
Mm.
all of those things are like takeout based misconceptions. And so much of our work and the book is about showing you that South Asian cooking, Indian and Sri Lankan specifically, is fresh and seasonal and produce forward and very healthy. And yeah, that's a big one. Asha, what else you got?
I mean, I think going back to the misconception that South Asian food is really complicated and that it involves this huge, laundry list of ingredients. When Sana and I went back and looked at all of the recipes once we had, written the cookbook, we really saw that you can make most of the recipes in the cookbook with 6 spices and some curry leaves and tamarind concentrate. So,
Easy.
you don't need 25 spices if you don't want them. I mean, I want them, but you can, with 6 spices, make so many dishes across the 10 different states that we visited and got recipes from.
6 is easy. 6 is easy. And it's the,
That's
and that's where
straightforward.
the folks who think like salt and pepper is a lot, like this is
Yeah.
our way to say, like, open yourself up, try something new, and you're going to love it. And it doesn't have to be just your garlic powder. It can be
But our garlic
something.
powder is pretty good, though.
Also,
Oh,
our garlic
my
powder
God.
was great.
I'm such a
The
garlic
garlic powder is magical.
I'm going to pick up your garlic powder because, like, again, I love garlic. Like, sometimes I have a little too much garlic and I need to calm down.
Don't we all?
But, like, but that's me saying, like, the people who think that just a garlic powder is like exotic, like, this is their entryway to see, no, there's actually a lot you can do and bring it into an everyday basis here.
Yeah.
Yes. So I know this is always a difficult question as well, but I'd love to hear what you're each most proud of during this journey so far. And how would you like to grow? What do you see for the future of Diaspora after just getting off of the cookbook tour here?
Ooh, in so many ways, I was on another call this morning and I was telling them that it's been 9 years and we're just starting to get to do the really fun stuff. It was 9 years of really hard stuff, and now I get to play. So, one exciting one that I'm sharing, part of the secret is that we're opening a store, and I can't say where or when, but we are, and it's going to be beautiful. And the next one is that we're really finding more and more exciting ways to get different flavors into people's kitchens. We did a collaboration with Padma Lakshmi last year and it blew up. Like people were just obsessed with it. And it's coming back later this year. And that just made me realize that there's still so many people who don't know diaspora and who like need better spices in their lives. My mother-in-law has spices from when she got married in her kitchen.
No.
So if I can just like convert the towns of Elmhurst and Hinsdale, like I think I'll have my work cut out for me.
Got you. I'll take Lake Bluff for you.
Sounds good. So that's me. But I think Asha has like a flashier, more exciting one. What's coming up for her?
I mean, I am really proud of being able to capture everything that we did in the recipes, and recipe writing is something that I will continue doing. I am working on my own cookbook, which comes out in June of 2027.
Oh my gosh.
And my manuscript is due at the end of this month, which is wild. Um, I'm like
Congratulations.
feverishly writing head notes. And so it's called Dinner Season. It uses lots of spices, but a well-traveled pantry, and really focuses on seasonality. So I will continue to write cookbooks as long as people will continue to cook my recipes.
Yes. And we'll share it here too. Like as soon as it's out, we'll help push the word here.
Yay.
Oh my. Okay. So one last question before the world's best and hardest question here. What is a piece of advice you like to give anyone who's looking to start anything on their own, anything entrepreneurial, whether it's within food and bev or any other industry?
I'm always team don't overthink it, just start. If it's going to fail, you'll fail fast. If it's going to blow up, you'll only get better. But like when people are like overthinking any idea for too long, I feel like you chew it out, you know?
Yes.
So just
Yeah,
start. Asha?
definitely. I agree with the just start mentality. And then also make sure you have a good therapist.
Well, yes. Yes. Shout out to all of our therapists. They've been there. They've been doing the work. Talked to mine this morning.
Good.
Yes, it's all good for us because this is a marathon. Like you will mentally go through highs and lows every single day, if not multiple times a day. And so when you
Mhm.
it's not about just dumping on someone else. It's really, for me, it's been like all those tools and learning
Yeah.
new
100%.
mechanisms and saying what is an actual emergency versus, hey, I already got through this hard thing. This is a piece of cake.
You can do this one.
Oh,
Mhm.
yes, yes, yes. So, Sana, Asha, here we are. A little reminder for folks, this is called the perfect bite, not only because it's a perfect bite of our folks across the value chain of food and bev, but because we each have our own perfect bites. So, a moment, a recipe, a memory, something you've eaten that every time you think about it, it makes you smile. So, each of you, Sana and Asha, what are your perfect bites?
I'm going to go first because otherwise I'm worried Asha's going to steal mine or have the same
Okay.
one as me, which
You don't
is
know.
for me, it's our cover recipe, which is a bitter melon and tomato salad that's based on Karawala sambal, which is a Sri Lankan, like basically relish. So it's fried bitter melon, tomatoes that, get really juicy and like concentrated with flavor. And then also red onions, right? Like little slivers of red onion. And the
Mhm.
dressing that Asha developed has a little bit of fish sauce in it. It's got that little bit of funk. So the perfect bite is when you get a perfectly fried, still crispy bitter melon round, and then a little bit of super concentrated, fully dressinged tomato peak season, and then a little sliver of like sharp red onion on top, and you put it in your mouth, and it's like explosion of flavor. Perfect bite.
And a perfect example of everything you've been building.
Exactly.
So my perfect bite is the Gangura Papu from the book, which is Andres style dal with sorrel, and it's really spicy and sour. And that with rice and yogurt. And the perfect bite is you have to eat it with your hands. Like if you eat it with a spoon, it will not taste as good. Like you need to scoop up and like mix the dal and the rice together and get some of the yogurt and eat it with your hands, or else it will not be the perfect bite.
And for me, like I like to analyze the answer sometimes. I mean, that's the true home cooked spirit that you were feeling within those kitchens and that you're
Mhm.
bringing to all of us. Thank you. Those are beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you both so
Thank
much for your
you.
time. This has been so much fun. Okay. Can you all let us know where to find Diaspora? So, social accounts, website, general retailers, anywhere that we can find you all and the book.
Yeah, so we are www.diasporaco.com for all of your spice needs. And then at Diaspora Co on Instagram and TikTok, more on Instagram than TikTok because we are older millennials.
There with you.
And then and then our spices are available on our website and in about 900 independent stores across the US, including across Whole Foods in California. And the book, I love being able to say this, is available wherever books are sold.
Very powerful statement. It
I
is.
know, right? I'm like,
Go to your local
yes,
bookstores, folks. Support your local
yes,
bookstores.
please.
Sana, Asha, thank you again so much. And
You're
everyone,
Thank you.
thank you. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. You are listening to Sana Javeri Kadri and Asha Lupi's Perfect Bite.
Thanks for tuning in to The Perfect Bite today. You can listen to future episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Thanks in advance for subscribing, rating, and reviewing. You can follow The Perfect Bite on social media at Perfect Bite Pod. Now go get something good to eat.